How would you grade yourself on integrating
acquisitions?
Yeah.
There have been some acquisitions that have been more successful than others, of course. They have definitely significantly contributed to changing who we are at F5 and what we can offer our customers, the markets we play in, and really truly building F5 into a platform company. So I am pretty proud of what the teams have done overall.
B+. Hi, and welcome to GeekWire. I'm GeekWire co-founder Todd Bishop.
And I'm GeekWire co-founder John Cook.
We are coming to you on location this week at the F5 Tower in downtown Seattle. And I'm pleased to welcome our guest, François Locoh-Donou, who is F5's chairman, president, and CEO. It's great to have you here, François.
Thank you, Todd. Thanks for having me.
François, we are here in part because it's F5's 30th anniversary, and it's really one of the most remarkable business and technology stories of the past 3 decades in Seattle, and you might not hear about it as much as some of the other big tech companies. F5 helps keep the world's apps running and secure, and it's really reinvented itself again and again, from the early web to the cloud to the AI, and you're still standing 30 years later. So that's part of what we want to talk to you about today. We also want to talk about the new era of AI and where F5 is headed. And also, we want to talk a little bit about the World Cup.
We should.
and
we could do the whole podcast on the World Cup if you wanted to. You know, my interest would be there.
Exactly.
And also at the end, we do have a GeekWire trivia challenge, which is a tradition on the show. And I have a good question about F5's history. We'll see if we can stump
I am curious.
You and John. All right. So this is great. So people listening right now have almost certainly used F5 today, F5's technology today, like literally in the last 24 hours without knowing it, even if they don't know your name. Mm-hmm. Can you walk us through that? Like, where is F5 actually showing up in people's day as a way of getting to know the company?
Well, F5 is really focused on keeping all the applications that we all use, keeping all these applications secure, keeping them always available, keeping them always performing. And so any day that you use your favorite mobile banking application to make a payment or check your balance, anytime that you use your favorite coffee application, or you book a ticket on an airline, or you book a concert in one of the digital concert booking applications, or you use social media, anytime you do this, you're very, very likely using F5 technology, or F5 technology is behind that application, protecting your login, protecting your interaction, and make sure that you can enjoy the benefits of the digital world, get a great digital experience, but don't suffer from the dangers of it, and making sure that digital experience is actually the one you expect. It's fast, it's performing, it responds to you, and you don't have to wait very long.
And I know this is changing a lot with the advent of AI, but I actually just found out recently that F5 did not start out in this realm. And now, of course, F5, many people think it started out...
I thought this was going to be the trivia question.
No, this isn't the trivia. The trivia question's even better.
Okay.
But F5, many people think that it started in 1996 in Seattle as a load balancing company. Mm-hmm. So like traffic was hitting internet servers, maybe the Drudge Report back in the day was getting hammered with lots of traffic, and I'm sure F5 servers were making sure it was being served up to the audience. But no, in fact, it did not start that way, John. Did you know this?
I did not. And I was actually there at the founding of F5 and covered them very early on.
Were you at the East Side Journal at that point?
I was just starting my new journalism career, and it was one of the earlier companies that was coming up. So very early on. So I don't even know this history. I would just assume that that's how it started.
I learned this from your blog post about the longtime chairman, Al Higginson. So, François,
yes.
What did F5 actually start out as?
F5 was started by students at the University of Washington, and in the early days of the internet, and they wanted to build video games online.
Okay, I did not know this.
Yeah, like 3D VR video games back in the day.
Okay.
Which was a great idea at the start of the internet. Relatively quickly, they ran into a problem, which was that their game was not working the way they wanted to, because it was hosted on multiple servers, and if you sent a request to a server that was busy, you would get a lot of wait time, which doesn't work for a real-time experience of an online video game. And so they had to solve this problem. And in solving this problem, they invented a technology called load balancing between servers. And then as they went on, they had friends in the Seattle area who were always also building .coms, and all of their friends had the same problem. So they realized as they went on that the technology they had invented, the load balancing technology, was actually maybe more valuable than the original ideas of video game. And so the company made a pivot into load balancing, and then became known as a load balancing company in the late 90s, really serving initially websites, .coms, and then in the early 2000s, the company made a pivot to the enterprise because A, the .coms went away, and B, enterprises in the early 2000s were starting to deploy web-facing applications. And so they were starting to have the same issue. Oh, we have many, many more users that want to access our applications. They need to be hosted on multiple servers. And so we're going to have the issue of having to load balance between these servers if we want this application to be performing, to be always available, etc. And the F5 that you know today was created as a result of this pivot.
It's interesting. It reminds me a little bit of the story of Slack, because that started out, I believe, as Stuart Butterfield's
It was gaming as well.
Video game
yeah, it was
company.
Video games.
And they realized, wait, this little app that we created to chat amongst ourselves is actually the better product.
It's actually not uncommon for startups in technology companies to make a pretty substantial pivot in the early days. It's a tough decision. But a lot of, I think, the successful companies we look at today had to make big pivots in their history. And in the case of F5, it was video games to load balancing, which is not an obvious one, but it paid off in big ways.
So let's talk about the pivots that you've made during your tenure, because when you joined F5, it was not the company that it is today. You've made a lot of acquisitions, including one just announced this week that we want to talk about. Can you give a sense for the evolution of F5 during your tenure as CEO?
Yes, but I will start with what hasn't changed. What hasn't changed is, number one, the heart of what we do is making all these applications and API that are proliferating in all our companies, making them safe, making them secure, making them always available, and making them always performing. Where all these applications live and how they behave and where the traffic, all of that's changing, and I'll come to that. But at the heart, what we do and what we're focused on hasn't changed. The other thing that hasn't changed is this quest we have always had to make that easier for our customers, meaning the people inside of large enterprises whose job it is to make all the applications we use, to make them available and safe and secure. That job is very difficult, and it has grown really way more complex over the last 15 years than it was before. And so we have been on this quest to make their jobs easier. And every acquisition we make, every development we make is in pursuit of that same quest, and that quest hasn't changed. And then, of course, the third thing that hasn't changed is the culture of the company. I really credit Al Higginson, our chairman, who was on the board of F5 for 30 years, just retired recently, and then John McAdam, the CEO that preceded me, building an extraordinary culture. And I've been at F5 for 9 years, and I've really looked to nurture and enhance this culture. But it is culture where people, I think, feel valued, feel respected. We call it a human-first culture at F5, a human-first and high-performance culture. But that way of approaching how we work together, of coming to work to help each other thrive, is core to who we believe we are at F5, and that hasn't changed. Now, for the things that have changed, when I joined F5, we were still primarily a kind of single product hardware company. At the time, though, we realized that customers were really starting to build applications in public clouds. They were all moving applications to public cloud. And we knew that they were going to be increasingly in not just one public cloud, but multiple public clouds. And so we made a bet at the time that said, well, our customers will not end up in a single cloud, but they will end up in hybrid multi-cloud environments, because they will probably always want to have applications on premise, but they will want to use the best environment for each application. And so they'll make their choice, and they will want the flexibility to do that. But the complexity that comes from that flexibility will be a challenge for them, and we're going to be the company that solves that. And so we made this transition to say we're not going to be just a single product hardware company. We're going to be a company that is a platform company that can serve our customers anywhere they have their applications. And to be able to do that, we're going to have hardware, we're going to have software, and we're going to have software as a service giving complete choice to our customers. We're going to have all the commercial models they want, perpetual license, subscriptions, consumption models. So we are going to absorb the complexity of having all these models in-house to create simplicity and make things easier for our customers. And that's what we did in the first 6-7 years, I would say the first 8 years of my tenure at F5. We placed a lot of focus on that. And today we are that. We are a platform company. We are essentially the leader in hybrid multi-cloud delivery and security of all applications and APIs, and our customers rely on us for that. And now, in the last couple of years, we have entered a new era, which is the AI era. I'm sure we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
But things are evolving again as AI traffic is exploding. Customers are now developing more or integrating AI applications, using AI models, deploying AI agents. All of that's creating new needs in terms of securing and delivering traffic. But our quest remains the same, making all these things secure, making them available and performing all the time.
Let's talk about the latest example. You just announced an acquisition this week, SurePath AI, and it struck me that it was a really vital piece of technology because it sort of sits on the network and it detects the AI signals. It figures out when the traffic going over a particular piece of hardware or network cable is an AI chatbot or agent. Why is that important, and what does that bring for you?
Well, it is exactly that, Todd. And the reason it's important is if you step back, we're all very excited about AI and the potential that AI applications, the way it's already changing our lives, and we're just in the very early innings of how it's changing our lives. So we're excited about where AI is going to take us. That said, AI is a vulnerable technology today. Models have a lot of vulnerabilities. They can be abused in so many ways. And we have a mission for our customers to build a better digital world, meaning help people use AI, but also make it safe. And what we see today is as kind of maybe the biggest challenge in AI adoption in enterprises is that the more an enterprise adopts AI, the less it has visibility on what AI is crawling in my organization. Because the more an enterprise adopts AI, it deploys more agents. These agents call on tools. It deploys more models. These models are calling on agents. These models are integrating with applications. The models have to rely on data. They're fetching data in different places. And understanding which employee is using what AI, what agent is using what tool is quite complicated. And so what we wanted to do is help, first of all, our customers discover what AI is in use in their organization. And SurePath AI does that. They have really built a really strong solution for discovery of AI in an organization. What AI is, whether it's agents or models, what's in use. But what we're doing goes beyond that, because I shared with you the complexity that our customers are dealing with before. What our customers don't want to have is, I have a tool for discovery. But once I've discovered these models that exist in my organization, I then need to go and test the vulnerabilities that exist in these models. Then I'm going to have to go to a separate tool for that.
Right.
And then once I've discovered these vulnerabilities, I need to build remediation for these vulnerabilities. Then I go to a separate tool for that. Having 4, 5, 6 different tools to discover, test, and secure your AI is a nightmare. And so what we're doing, and we announced that this week as well, is we are building an AI security platform that includes all of these capabilities: discovery of AI models or agents, the governance and visibility around them, testing of these AI models, and the guardrails to protect these models. So that's what we're building.
But it seems like this acquisition that you made this week was key, because if you can't see it, you can't secure it, and that leads to all the other things you were doing. And it's one of a number of acquisitions you've made over the years.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that acquisition path that you've been on and kind of what's ahead for acquisitions. And I guess, but first off, what makes a good acquisition for F5?
Well, that's a great question. Not every acquisition is the same in terms of shape and size. What makes a great acquisition for F5 is, I think there are multiple attributes, but first is typically a technology that we don't believe we can build ourselves in the time frame that we need to build it. And I think SurePath AI is a good example of that. We couldn't build what they've built with the speed that is required to both be competitive and deliver to our customers what they need. So that's an important attribute, is a belief and conviction around the technology of the company we're acquiring. The second attribute is, of course, a meeting in the minds on the quest for our customers. What do customers need? What mission are we trying to solve together? And how does an asset that is outside of F5, when that asset comes into F5, how does it become more valuable to the ecosystem and our customers? Answering that question honestly and truthfully is really important for us in the process. And then, of course, the third, but perhaps the most important attribute is the team that is coming. And so we do spend an extraordinary amount of time ensuring that the team coming into F5 is going to fit in the culture, is going to feel that they can do their best work here, is going to be additive to what we're doing already. Those are probably three of the most significant attributes of a good acquisition at F5.
So you have that human first culture that you talked about. How do you make sure that those teams get integrated as you continue to grow and that they live by the same values that you are here?
We spend a lot of time and energy on that. I will tell you first, the first aspect of that is before we actually make an acquisition, the time that we spend with those teams, we get to know and learn whether it would fit or not. We have encountered companies in the industry that had great technology and brilliant people, but it was very clear to us that they would never be a great fit with F5. And so we walked away only on the grounds of this is not going to work from a cultural perspective. Then the integration, when folks come into F5, we really want to make sure that they have clarity before coming in on what the mission is going to be inside of F5, and that they are in a place in the organization where that mission is going to have the appropriate amount of visibility from the senior levels of the organization. That's an important path to success in combining two organizations together. And it's important to me that I feel that the mission of that organization is actually important to F5. Because if it's not, if it's just a nice to have for F5, the amount of energy that we're going to put in it is not going to be what is necessary to make an acquisition successful. And so ensuring that the mission of the organization is important to all of F5 is another criterion that we use to ensure the integration goes well.
How would you grade yourself on integrating
acquisitions?
Yeah. And I'm sure everyone's a bit different, but like I get the sense that you've brought some different business lines in over the years that have really pivoted the business in totally different ways, which is not easy. So it seems from the outside it's been successful.
Acquisitions it's difficult to talk. Somebody was asking me the other day, I was saying, have you ever heard a parent say, I have a favorite child and I have a not favorite child?
Yeah.
In my, look, I think overall, there have been some acquisitions that have been more successful than others, of course. What's more important to me is that with every passing year, this muscle about identifying potential targets, making acquisitions, creating value from these acquisitions and successful integrations, that this muscle continues to strengthen at F5 because we have learned from the mistakes of the prior ones and we don't repeat the same mistakes. And so, we get better and better and better at it. And I would say that over the course of the last 9 years, we have definitely gotten way better at understanding all of the pitfalls of acquisitions, avoiding some of them, and being more consistent in the way we integrate acquisitions. And in aggregate, if you look at all of them combined, yes, they have definitely significantly contributed to changing who we are at F5 and what we can offer our customers, the markets we play in, and really truly building F5 into a platform company. So I am pretty proud of what the teams have done overall.
B+. That's the perfect answer because it's up on the high on the scale, yet room for improvement. That's the perfect answer.
I will
That's
take
right.
that grade.
Hey, let's take a break. I want to talk a little bit more about AI later, but when we come back, I want to talk more about the World Cup and what it means for Seattle, what it means for you, François, and some of your roots. So let's do that when we come back. You're listening to GeekWire. Welcome back. It's Todd Bishop and John Cook. We are on location this week at the F5 Tower in downtown Seattle. We are here with the CEO of F5, François Locoh-Donou, who has been leading this company for many years. You have such a fascinating background. You grew up in Togo, and then you ended up in France. Tell us a little bit more about that. And specifically, though, we want to know this, given the moment that we're in right now, who are you rooting for in the World Cup right now?
Yes, I did. I did grow up in Togo. I was in Togo until my teenage years. I was born of a Togolese father and a French mother. And I moved to France with my mom in my teenage years, and I finished high school there and did my university studies in France before ultimately, moving to the U.S. when I joined the technology industry. And so Togo is not in the World Cup this year, unfortunately. So I am rooting for France as my number one team, and I think we have an unbelievable team, and I think we'll go far in the tournament. I am hoping we will go very far and maybe win it. But I am also, of course, I have very strong affinity with a number of African countries. And Ghana is probably top on that list, because Togo and Ghana used to be the same country. So I count them as my team. And so France would probably be my first team. Ghana would be my second team, and other countries from sub-Saharan Africa, Senegal, Ivory Coast are also. So you can see I support a lot of teams. And of course, I am now an American citizen and have been for several years. And so I also support the USA. And I think the USA this year has a chance to go far in this tournament. I saw the USA play in Seattle last week. They were phenomenal. And the combination of the team in place and the fact that we're playing the tournament here in the U.S., I will make a bold prediction and say I think the USA will get to the quarterfinals for the first time in American history. I don't know beyond that, but I'd love to see that.
It's shaping up pretty well, the bracket-wise. So I think I believe in that prediction now. So I think I'm right there with you. So
it's not quite an AI prediction.
Yes, that's right.
It's a very human prediction.
That's right.
This one.
That's right. That's good.
But I'd love to see that.
So with all those allegiances, I'll have you do your draft of Mbappe, who's a French striker, Semenyo, who's a great Ghanaian player, and then Christian Pulisic from the U.S. Who would you pick if you were drafting?
Wow, that's tough.
Oh my God, that's easy. Actually,
we're really nerding out on the soccer stuff here now.
It is very easy. Yes. I would pick Mbappe. First of all, I think he is today the best player in the world, and it's not because he's French African, by the way. It's not only because of that. I think he's the best player in the world in terms of skill, speed, and goals scored, and he's extraordinarily gifted. Semenyo I would not pick because he is Ghanaian, but he plays for Manchester City, which is a rival.
I know you're an Arsenal fan, but yes.
Which is Arsenal.
Yes.
So Semenyo is out.
Yes, okay.
And then Pulisic, no, I like him, but he's not quite in the class of Mbappe.
Yes, I agree with that ranking.
You had a great question that you came up with for Francois, and I say this in part because I want to steer this away from being the
just
World
the
Cup
World
fantasy.
Cup nerd out session, because we could talk for hours on this.
Yeah, the bonus.
But, I know you're both a fan and a former player, and love the game, obviously. So let's bring this back to leadership, and we're talking about culture. So if you were to describe your management style, are you more of an attacker, midfielder, defender, or goalie? Your management leadership style, where would you put yourself?
It's funny you asked me this because by the way, I still play.
But we should have you out to our Sunday pickup
GeekWire FC.
Our GeekWire FC.
I didn't know there was such a thing.
So Seattle University, come out. We play on Sunday mornings. We'd love to have you.
Maybe I will join you.
We'll talk offline about the pickup soccer games in Seattle.
I should have said I still play when I'm not injured, which is less and less frequent.
Yes.
But it's interesting because I started. When I was playing initially, I was a striker. Then in my 30s, I was an offensive midfielder, and then a defensive midfielder.
They keep moving you back.
I think I'm going to finish in goal. But
there are so much you can learn from the game of soccer. I found this playing my whole life that I apply to running our own business, and there's certain lessons that I've taken from it. So I'm curious what you've taken from the game that you apply to your own leadership style, and maybe where you'd rank yourself or where you put yourself with those different characteristics between an attacker, defender, midfielder. We'll forget about goalies.
I think for me, it's less about the position than the type of leaders I've seen in soccer teams. You have leaders who they play their position better than everybody else, and it inspires you to be the best you can be.
You're seeing that with Messi for sure.
You see that with Messi. There are leaders who run everywhere on the field, and it inspires you as a player to also run everywhere and put more sweat equity into the game.
Yeah, hard work. Yeah.
Right? There are leaders who whisper to every player before a play, "You're going to be great. You just don't know it, but you're so great," and inspires players to be the best they can be. And so of these three, I would probably be a combination of the person who runs everywhere and inspire people to run, and the whisperer.
So the hard work and the inspiration.
And the inspiration, just bringing people into a high performance team and letting them be great and instilling belief in them that they can be great and that they belong there. I fundamentally, this is in terms of philosophy, I don't believe very much in what I call north-south pressure, meaning leaders that believe that the way you create a high-performance team is by a boss putting pressure on their subordinates and say, you shall work harder, you should perform at this level, etc. I believe the way you create a high-performance team is first by attracting the best possible talent you can on the team, and then instilling belief, self-belief in each of these people, and letting the pressure that comes to them come from themselves and or come from their peers, because they look to their left and to their right, and the team is of such a high caliber that they want to be on their A game just to belong in the team. And if I play that to soccer, I've played on teams where I was scrambling every day to try and be at the level of the team, and that brought the best out of me. It wasn't a coach or anybody. It was me watching the other players and say, well, I just want to be as good as them and play in that team. So that's my belief in how you create truly high-performance teams in a way that's not for just 3 months, in a way that's durable for a long period of time.
Even a goalie analogy would probably work here. As a goalie, you're securing the back line and you're stopping all the threats from coming in. Right. Yeah, I think what's interesting to me about soccer is that you both have to know when to play defense and offense, and you have to play at the same time. And I've seen that with F5's history, going on offense perhaps with pivoting in a new direction or an acquisition. And so it's just, I've always loved that about soccer. You have to play kind of both. Well, maybe if you're Messi, you don't have to play any defense, but
it's a great analogy. And even in the work of security that we do with customers, there is offense and defense, right? The offensive part is the work we do to go and find all the vulnerabilities that exist and the potential threats, etc. And the defense work is to remediate or block them and enforce them. And I think the best companies actually play both offense and defense, and I think both reinforce each other. It's a loop that we invest quite a bit of energy into.
So last week on Juneteenth, you brought a group of teenagers in from some underrepresented schools in the region. You brought them into F5 Tower and you took them to the World Cup match, the U.S.-Australia match. And you told them that they belong in this industry, that they don't have to be a geek, that their voices matter, and that they can have a place at a company like this as they move into their careers. Why was that an important message for you to deliver?
It was important because when I started in the technology industry myself, I didn't think I belonged in the industry, let alone becoming a CEO of a company. Because I looked at the people around me, there was no one who looked like me, and I felt that I didn't really have the social capital that others have in terms of understanding senior people and what makes them tick and what humor to have, and whether even to have a social interaction outside of a meeting with these folks. So I really felt out of place, and I felt lonely. I didn't think I would last very long in the industry. Frankly, in the first few months in my first job in the industry, it was just, my hope was to not get fired. That was the dream. And so,
set your bar low. Yeah, right. Well, don't get fired.
But I felt it was a matter of time before it would happen, because I didn't feel that I had all the qualifications that were required. And it was quite lonely. And, when we brought these kids in the other day, yes, we were sponsoring them for them to go to this game. We partnered with Black Players for Change to create this moment for them in the city of Seattle to sponsor for them to go to the game. But we wanted to have an impact that would last beyond just this game. And for me, it was the first opportunity for all of them to walk in the corporate offices of a technology company.
This is quite a place, by the way, this F5 tower. I mean, even for somebody who's been in a lot of headquarters, this is a pretty jaw-dropping skyscraper. But keep going, yeah.
And they, I think that alone, was an inspiration for them. But it was important for me that they hear from a Black executive in this technology industry that the technology industry is also for them and they have a place here, and that these kids are in high school, that they start thinking about they could have a play here, that even if they're not coding on computers every day, they can have a place in the technology industry. Even if they have no parent or sibling or anybody in their family who's ever set foot in a technology company, they can have a place in this industry. And also that their voice matters. I think our industry needs more diverse voices. There aren't enough diverse voices that shape the future of this industry. And it was also to tell them that not only they belong and they could come into this industry, but if they did, their voice would matter tremendously. So that's why it mattered for me to share that with them.
Francois, we could talk with you for hours. I really want to get to trivia. So, and do you have another question, John?
No, let's do it.
Sure.
Let's hop in.
All right, let's do that right after this break.
Pop quiz, hotshot.
This is GeekWire's Trivia Challenge.
Wouldn't you prefer a good game of chess?
All right, welcome back. It's Todd Bishop with John Cook. Yes, it is that time. It's time for the GeekWire Trivia Challenge. We are here at the F5 Tower with the CEO of F5, François Locoh-Donou, and he has been talking with us about the transition that F5 has been going through with AI and everything that you've been experiencing over the last, 30 years, but also especially over the last few years of your tenure. So here is the question. John, I think this gets a little to your roots as well, but also F5's
You already
roots.
stumped us with the video game, or stumped me. Stumped me with the video game history, which was very cool.
So in 1998, a year before going public, F5 landed a high-profile job managing web traffic for what event? And Francois, it's multiple choice. Don't worry. So here we go. So 1998, high-profile job managing web traffic for what event? A, the launch of Google Search. B, the release of the Starr Report. C, Senator John Glenn's space shuttle mission. D, France's 1998 World Cup site. Or E, the Furby product launch. Okay. Francois, I hope did I stump you?
I know how Todd designs trivia, and he tries to tie all these themes in that we're talking about. So I'm going to go with, I don't know what letter. Maybe you should read the letters off again.
A, the launch of Google Search. Yeah. B, the release of the Starr Report. C, Senator John Glenn's space shuttle mission. D, the France 98 World Cup site. Or E, the Furby product launch. And
these are fun choices, by the way.
My source on this is the Seattle Times story about the F5 IPO in 1999. This was like a fun fact about F5 that they threw into the bottom of the story. It's not, though, a canonical F5 moment. I don't think it would be on your timeline necessarily. And you weren't here.
I'm going to go with the 98 World Cup just because it's in the news. You set me up to fail. You set me up to fail.
It has something else to do with your background.
It's not the Furby.
Where's John Glenn from?
Really?
Yep.
Okay, well, John Glenn is the astronaut from Ohio, my home state.
Yes, it was his space shuttle mission. When he went back, he was already a senator.
I don't even remember that happening.
He was already a senator.
See, I just immediately discounted that because I don't remember him going back on a shuttle mission, but he did.
And so apparently their website was highly trafficked, or there was something having to do with the internet traffic that F5 ended up having to load balance the servers to make sure that the crush of interest in his return to space was away. Now, again, my source here is the Seattle Times.
But by the way, I would have gotten that wrong. So thank you for that. And I would have gone with the only event that mattered to me in 1998, frankly, was the French World Cup.
And they won
and
that year, right?
They won the World Cup, and it's also the year I met my wife, So, and actually, I met her at the World Cup. So, 1998 and the French World Cup would have been what I would have picked.
Regardless.
Because
well, you have to tell the story of how you met your wife at the World Cup now.
We met in Paris. I was actually traveling in London at that time, and we met at a party in Paris. But she didn't want to date me. And then I finally, when France...
I feel this hard work ethic that's going to come back in here to win.
Work, yeah. But then when France won the World Cup, we went to a party. We went to a watch party to watch the final of the World Cup. It was France against Brazil. And after that watch party, all of us went to the Champs-Élysées because Paris became this giant street party at the time. And we went to the Champs-Élysées to party with everybody. And in the confusion and joy and happiness of this party, I was able to make my case.
Wow, that's a great story.
And we're here almost 30 years later.
Yes.
And that. So I tell my children that they should very much respect Zinedine Zidane because without him, they may not be with us today.
That's right. That's right.
Well, we've heard your World Cup prediction for the U.S. at least. I'm curious, what should we be thinking about, just as a conclusion here, about F5 as you go forward into the next year or two? What's top of mind and really top of your agenda as the CEO of the company right now?
What's top of mind is making sure the great things about F5 that shouldn't change don't change, including our human first and high performance culture. I think it's core to the DNA of our company. It's core to what we do inside the company, but it's also core to what we do outside in the communities here around Seattle and outside of Seattle, because we do that on a global basis everywhere we are. So all that work of living and being who we are and nurturing that and maintaining it and ensuring it doesn't erode is always top of mind for me. And then specifically to this moment, of course, it's the evolution of our company in the AI era. Our customers are facing an exciting future, but also very challenging with the vulnerabilities of AI. And so being able to do for AI what we've done for traditional applications, for our applications and APIs, but doing that for AI, meaning making sure that AI workloads are always on, always performing, always secure, is absolutely critical for F5 and for our customers. And so we're going to place enormous focus on continuing to build that with our customers.
Well, Francois, thank you very much for sitting down with us here.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks to everyone out there for listening. Curt Milton edited this episode. Until next time, I'm Todd Bishop.
And I'm John Cook.
We'll talk to you next week on the GeekWire podcast.